Integrity by Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal has you covered. They can also haul rock or sand. They can do driveway work and can now even do horizontal grinding of large wood debris piles. Give Keith a call at 229 314 2048 or at 229 938 2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is proud to be the premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
We are live at the Roman Oven Pizzeria in Americus, and I mean to tell you, it is packed in here tonight. Got a big crowd. We want you to come by and be a part of this show with us. Have a great supper, and let's talk a little high school football. I'm your host, Tim Estes. As always, proud to be joined by our co-host, Scott Westbrook. It is week 11 of the high school football season, and a lot is on the line this week at this point. Scott, our local teams still have a lot to play for. Schley County needs one more win to secure the region championship. Southland Academy needs to win their final two games to secure a playoff spot. And Sumter County needs to win their final two games to secure the number 2 seed in their region. And if they can do that, they'll get to host a playoff game. So all three of our local teams have important matchups this week.
They all do. I mean, we're at the end of the season now, and every game matters for our local teams. There's some teams, though, however, outside our area that have pretty much mailed it in and already started basketball season, but that's not the case for all three local teams. All three, like you said, Schley County is trying to get their second region championship in a row, going back to back. Southland is fighting for a playoff life, as well as Sumter. And Sumter benefited from some activity in Thomaston, Georgia, the GHSA, that we'll touch on later in the show.
Absolutely. Scott, Southland Academy, we'll talk about them a little later as well, but they've gone through a rough patch, but they finish with two teams that should be very winnable games and should have a good shot to get into the playoffs.
And possibly even host the game.
And possibly host, that's right. Let's start as we recap last week's games with Sumter County. The Panthers lost to Fitzgerald 33-24 with what was very controversial down there. Even though Sumter played well, some controversy in that game that very well could have cost the Panthers. Their current record now is 5-3. But Scott, last week, a 9-point loss for the Panthers. The major controversy in this game was first on a Panther defensive touchdown. They picked up a fumble, were going in to score, had an inadvertent whistle on the drive. They ended up getting no points out of that drive, and it would have been a touchdown. So there's 7 points. There was another point in the game where their guy receiving the kick evidently called for a fair catch. Watching it on film, there's no question to anybody in the stands that it should have been a fair catch. The officials didn't see it. That pinned the Panthers back deep on their 1-yard line. 2 plays later, Fitzgerald gets a safety. That 7 points on the inadvertent whistle and the 2 points that were cost because of the safety, that's the difference in the ball game, 9 points.
The inadvertent whistle, the fair catch, that they can argue that. Like you said, you saw it on film. But the inadvertent whistle, that is the cardinal sin of officiating. A lot of people wonder why the officials wait so long to blow their whistle. I had, back in my day when I was an official, I had an inadvertent whistle, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was just a JV game, but it was on a like a 4th and short play. And, everybody, they all bunched up, and I was a line judge, and they faked the handoff to the fullback going up the middle, and he fell forward, and I saw him fall forward, and if it was first down, I'm spotting the ball, and it was just a big jumble, like a big rugby pile in the middle. And I blew my whistle, and unbeknownst to me, it was a fake handoff, and the quarterback had bootlegged out the left and was running down the sideline, and the only person in the stadium didn't see it was me. So and like I said, I mean, that would have been a touchdown. So you got to feel sorry for these officials. They do the best they can, but I tell you, the inadvertent whistle is something that will probably haunt that official until he hangs his whistle up.
Regardless of all that, Scott, what's impressive is the Panthers were able to go toe-to-toe with the best team in the region in Fitzgerald, at Fitzgerald, and not only that, Fitzgerald's the number 7 team in AA.
Well, number 7 team in AA. They have really Sumter County is making a believer out of more and more people every week, not just in this area, but in other areas too. Some say it was a good week to catch Fitzgerald because they might have been preoccupied with some other stuff that they had going on that week. But nevertheless, Sumter County stepped up to the occasion and really made a strong showing in a game that most people didn't give them a prayer in.
And if you haven't heard much about what happened in the Sumter County Fitzgerald game, it was 0-0 at halftime. Neither team could muster a score. And then both teams came out like gangbusters in the third quarter, and both scored 24 points in the third quarter. So it's 24-24 going into the final quarter, and Fitzgerald was able to outscore the Panthers 9-0 in that fourth and final quarter to pull away with a 33-24 win. So what does that mean in the region standings, in the playoff picture?
You go ahead. You have researched this more heavily than I have, Tim.
You really have to pay attention, and I hope I got this right. There's a lot of different scenarios. If you had not heard, Cook County had a player that was deemed ineligible prior to last Friday's game. So they had to forfeit all 5 of their wins. So here's what we've got now. Fitzgerald is currently 6-2 going into tomorrow night. They're 4-0 in the region. They play Cook County tomorrow night. And boy, if we didn't have to be where we have to be, it would be nice to be there at that game. Cook County tomorrow night against Fitzgerald, and then they'll have Marion left to play. I don't know how they'll match up against Cook County. I feel certain they'll get a win, and that would put Fitzgerald as the number 1 team in the region. Worth County is currently 5-3. They're 3-1 in the region. They've got Sumter County and Cook County left to play. If Worth County were to get a win against Sumter County, they're going to be the number 2 seed. Feel certain that Sumter County can get at least one more win. All right, Sumter County is currently 5-3, just like Worth County is, and 3-1 in the region. They've got Worth County left to play and Jeff Davis left to play. So here's the scenario. If Sumter can win out, if they can beat Worth County and they can beat Jeff Davis, they're going to be the number 2 team in that region, and they'll get to host a playoff game. Jeff Davis is currently sitting 4th at 5-4. They're 3-2 in the region. They're open this week. And of course, their last game is against Sumter County. So Sumter wins out. They're the number 2 seed. They host a playoff game. If Sumter wins one of their final 2 games, they'll be the number 3 seed. If they lose both of those games, they're going to be the 4 seed. And here's why. They would be tied with Cook County if Cook won out. But due to the forfeit of those 5 wins, Sumter County would win it on the head-to-head. Here's another crazy scenario, Scott. If Sumter County were to win out, they beat Worth and then they beat Jeff Davis, and Cook wins out, Cook becomes the 4 seed.
I follow several Facebook pages for high school football. I've said it many times here. And it's funny how, the message has changed today that it has earlier in the week. Earlier in the week, all the Cook County fans were, sharpening their pitchforks and lighting their torches and headed to headed to Fitzgerald to get a pound of flesh because they believe that Fitzgerald's the team that turned them in. So much so it was even published in the local 8L paper.
Yeah.
But now Fitzgerald fans, I saw a couple of them say, America Sumter. That's how one of the fans said is going to be doing the Lord's work for them next 2 weeks. That they've turned into big Sumter County fans over in Adel. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Kind of be watch what's going on peripherally in this area in this region for those teams because of the forfeit of all the wins that Fitzgerald had earlier in the season.
And Scott, let's throw Cook County a bone here. We did a little bit of research and found out what happened in that situation. Georgia High School has a rule that says that a player cannot follow a coach in a transfer. In July, 2 years ago, a player that had grown up in Cook County and was there until the 6th grade moved to Lowndes, played his 7th grade through his 11th grade year at Lowndes. Okay. 2 years ago in July, this coach from Lowndes took a job at Cook. Well, the mother and father of that player that was at Lowndes divorced. The mom moved back to Adel. So did Adel County filed a hardship with Georgia High School and was granted that hardship. But when it was brought to light that this coach transferred there in July, the player transferred in January, it violated the Georgia High School Association's follow the coach rule. So tough situation down there. Really, my hope, Scott, is that Cook County can win out, Sumter County can win out, and that both of those teams get to go to the playoffs.
You and I both have sources in Adel, and we called, and they told us pretty much the same thing. My sources in Fitzgerald have dried up. One of them, unfortunately, has passed away. And I saw Coach Josh McDonald at church on Sunday, and I was going to kind of be in his ear a little bit and see what was going on. But he and I never got together. I ended up talking to somebody else, and he got away from me. But I did want to. If I know him, he would have probably had no comment on it.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I got to get a contact in Fitzgerald and get their side of the story too on this.
As far as Sumter County this week, Scott, they've got Worth County coming to town. Currently 5-3 with only one region loss. That was a 36-20 loss to Fitzgerald. Their quarterback, Lyndon Worthy, he's really good. He's got 19 touchdown passes on the season. His favorite receiver is Dante Fulton. He has 12 of those touchdowns as a receiver. They also average 250 yards a game passing, and they're not just a passing team. 150 yards on the ground as a team. Caden Chester leads their rushing attack. He has 106 yards per game. Worth County going to be a formidable opponent for the Panthers.
Definitely, they have offensively, they have a very balanced attack. It looks like if you stop one thing, they can go to their bag of tricks and switch and become a running team, and vice versa. So that would concern me if I was a defensive coordinator for Sumter County. Since you don't really have to prepare for one thing because you've got a two-headed monster that you're facing Friday night.
Today's show is also brought to you in part by Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance. He's located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Americus. You can reach Marty at 928-3686 or get in touch with him or any of his fine staff to discuss your insurance needs. Marty can do the discount double check, and he'll make sure you're receiving all of the savings that is available to you. He even has a life-size cutout of the State Farm guy, Jake. So you can go by there and get your photo taken with Jake from State Farm. As always, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. That brings us to Southland Academy. Southland had a tough night last Friday night as they traveled down to Valwood in Hayhira, Georgia. Final score was 49-0 Valwood. That puts Southland currently at 2-6. This week they'll take on the Tiftarea Academy Panthers. Scott, what do we know about Tiftarea?
Tiftarea is struggling this season. They are definitely a winnable game for Southland when I don't think anybody expected Southland to beat Valwood last week. Valwood, I think, is the top team in the region.
That's right.
And is having a phenomenal season. So, but on the flip side of that, Tiftarea is having an abysmal season.
Yeah.
So hopefully Southland can get back in the win column this week when they face Tiftarea.
Even though it was a tough night for the Raiders, quarterback Banks Simmons, who, by the way, is here somewhere tonight here at Roman Oven, Banks Simmons completed 10 passes for 120 yards. Perry Usher was his leading receiver with 47 yards. And it'll be a different type of game for Southland this week. Tiftarea comes into the contest at 1-6-1. They are coached by Eric Soliday, the former America's high school coach that won state championships here in Americas. Tiftarea actually picked up their first win of the season last week with a 20-0 shutout of Deerfield. Now, what will Southland need to contain when it comes to Tiftarea? Looking at their stats, they'll need to contain John Robert Walker. He leads the Panthers in rushing with 82 yards per game. And you may think that's because he's a pretty good running back. He's not a running back. John Robert Walker is their quarterback. So he's a mobile quarterback. He also has 15 passing touchdowns on the season. John Jackson is Tiftarea's leading receiver. He's got 9 of those touchdowns. And Scott, when I look at Tiftarea Academy on paper, it looks to me like they have 2 players that dominate both on the offensive side. And when you look at numbers of tackles for losses, both of those guys, John Robert Walker and John Jackson, are the 2 guys that lead on defense. So for Rod Murray and the Raider staff, I think they know their assignment this week and what needs to get done.
It makes it a lot easier to prepare for. You just hope that the players will buy into the game plan and execute it on Friday night. Because I guarantee you the game plan is stop those 2 guys.
Yeah. Tiftarea, as Scott mentioned, has struggled mightily this year, 1-6-1. Scott, here's how the GIAA playoffs work. And I did get a chance to speak with Coach Rod Murray this week, and he explained to me exactly how this operates, and it's pretty interesting. The GIAA uses Max Prep's ranking system to determine their playoffs. There are 12 teams in the Class AAA division. Out of those 12, the top 10 of those teams make the playoffs. But in the first round, the top 6 get a bye. So you're going to have number 7 that will host number 10, and then you'll have number 8 that hosts number 9 in the first round. Southland's currently ranked 8th in the GIAA Max Preps poll. If they can win their next 2, not only will they make the playoffs, they could possibly host a playoff game. So as frustrating as the last few games have been for the Raiders, Scott, they can still salvage a pretty good season if they can win the next 2 games.
They can hit the reset button. They can sit there and say, okay, look, we've made it to the playoff. We are, especially if they end up hosting a game, this is their opportunity to say, we got a second lease on life here. So what are we going to do? We're going to just sit there and roll over and die? Or are we going to sit there and are we going to stand up and say, hey, we're going to take advantage of this second chance we're getting, especially the seniors.
Yeah, and in talking to Coach Murray, I know he's got a lot of confidence in his guys. They've been banged up a lot this year. They've now got everybody back, and they're healthy. And so they're going into these final 2 games with everything they've got to throw at these 2 teams, Tiftarea and Deerfield, and hopefully Southland will be able to do that. One Digital is a steward of business growth and personal development. Their insurance, financial services, and HR platforms provide personalized, tech-enabled solutions for contemporary work-life experience. One Digital resolves real problems for your business and employees by fusing together customized solutions that address employee benefits, HR, and financial services. It's everything all in one. It's One Digital. Contact Will Peterson at 229-347-6289 today. One Digital is proud to be a sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast. And Scott, that gets us to the Schley County Wildcats. They had the big game of the area last week. Number 1, Schley County against number 2, and in some polls, number 3, Manchester. Schley County won 27-7. Their current record now is 7-0, or is it 8-0?
I don't know. I would think it's 8-0.
I think it's 8-0 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 8-0. They're ranked number 1 in Class A Division II. This week's opponent, Marion County. They're 4-4. They lost to Taylor County 22-20. And Scott, you see that 27-7 score, and if you weren't at the game, that looks like a blowout. It was everything but a blowout. The Cats had a close one for 3 quarters last week. It was 7-0 Schley at the half. It was 14-7 after 3 quarters, and then Schley picked up 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns, and that's what kind of spread the gap to 27-7. Scott, I'm going to say Manchester was the best Class A team that I've seen this year.
Most definitely. They came in with a really good game plan. We were fortunately had some breaks. I think we had some players that they probably underestimated. But there was a couple of plays. One in particular stands out to me, especially on the defense. Whenever there was a play, and it was maybe 3rd and short or 4th and short, I don't exactly remember what it was, but the whole, 10 of Manchester's offensive players went in one direction. They went to the right, and Terry, their big 5-star, 4-star, whatever he is, Georgia commit, giant, kind of just goes off to the left, and he's out there by himself. They throw the pass back towards him. Thankfully, Jalewis Solomon sniffed it out, made a great open field tackle, and shut it down. And I think that probably took the wind out of their sails more than anything else, because that's the play that they felt quite certain they would have probably ran into the end zone.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the only score in the first half, Jay Kanazawa, the Schley County quarterback, opened the scoring with a 14-yard quarterback keeper for a touchdown, and it was 7-0 at halftime. In the second half, Kanazawa would find Jalewis Solomon on a 16-yard flag route. That spread the lead out to 14-0. But it didn't last long, because on the ensuing kickoff, Darius Favors took it 70 yards for Manchester into the end zone, and it was close again at 14-7. I felt like the big play of the night was Jay Kanazawa to Sam Forehand early in the 4th quarter, a screen pass, and Sam split 2 defenders and raced 63 yards to score in the open field and kind of widen that gap to 21-7. Scott, you've always told me about how quick Sam Forehand is. Now, I'm a believer.
I tell you, Sam's really is one of my favorite players out there. I used to love watching him when he was a kid. He ran with so much force and power, and now he's combined some speed with that, and he's always been fast, but he's really gotten fast these last couple of years. One thing before we continue on, a lot of people forget, right before halftime, Manchester was knocking at the door.
Yeah.
And we had a big defensive stand that stopped them, and they didn't get any points before halftime. Had they scored then and got the opening kickoff after halftime, this could have been an entirely different game.
Absolutely. Later on in the 4th quarter, Scott's son, Carson Westbrook, caught a pass and made some incredible moves. If you get a chance to go onto his Twitter account or any of these social media accounts that shows Schley County highlights, you got to see this. Carson made some incredible moves after the catch, and he just simply left the Manchester secondary guessing, and he would waltz into the end zone. The PAT, however, was no good, and that's what made it 27-7. This week, Schley County takes on Marion County, a team who's been down a little. They do have some good athletes. Ty Goodrow at quarterback has a lot of experience. He's thrown for 236 yards. Obviously, the Eagles don't throw it very often. Running back Kelby Times is their top rusher. He's got 906 yards rushing on the season. Jaden Richardson, who's their number 2 guy at running back, he's got 606 yards to make for a pretty good 1-2 punch. On defense, the Eagles are led by Jalen Miller, who has 29 tackles. But, Scott, Marion County is going to face the Georgia High School Association's top defense in Class A Division II in Schley County.
Yeah, you said right here in your notes, go ahead and finish your notes. There's something I want to ask about on this.
Okay.
Go ahead right here.
Schley County is the top defense in Class A. Since the Bleckley County game, which happened on September the 8th, the Schley County starting defense has only allowed 2 touchdowns.
That's what I was curious. I thought we'd only allowed 1. What was the other one? I'm trying to remember. because I know we allowed one against Taylor early in the game because they had the long pass play and then they scored after that.
Would it have been Macon County?
I'm trying to remember, how did Macon score?
They had a long pass play down to like the 3 or 4 yard line, and then ran it in from there a couple of plays later.
Okay, maybe so. Maybe that would be okay. All right. I just didn't remember, but still, that's crazy impressive. And Marion County can't be taken lightly. They've got a rusher who's knocking at the door to have 1,000 yards.
That's right.
So I'm expecting to see him get the ball a good bit. We're gonna have to jump on them early and force them to throw the ball. We're gonna have to get them to do something that they're not comfortable doing, and because it looks like they're pretty comfortable, especially with one of those running backs to run the ball.
I think you're right. That's the game plan for Coach Darren Alford and his staff is shut down the run, make Marion County throw. But Scott, I wanted to mention these guys: Trenton Stubbs and Dedrick Thornton, Zayden Walker and Sam Forehand all up front. The linebackers, Jack Clark, Ethan Sellers, and Brody Smith, all of those guys have had just incredible seasons at the linebacker spot. Jalua Solomon, Carson Westbrook, and Tyrese Cook in the secondary. They're simply as good as you'll see at the Class A classification. This team has proven over the first 8 games that they're solid on both sides of the ball.
And KB Aldridge too. And,
absolutely.
And there's one other, I'm trying to think. I can't remember his name right now. Maybe you get old like me. That's kind of how it happens sometime. But yeah, Tim Peavy. If you remember how we started the season last year on defense, I think we went through 4 games before anybody ever scored on us.
Yep.
So Coach Peavy has got these young men buying into what his vision, and they're all on board. And I think that the defense. I know the offense is having a great time, but the defense alone, with Coach Peavy, they're just having the time of their lives.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Scott. We don't give Tim Peavy and Earl Dupree, who's the secondary coach, those guys really do a good job of game planning, and not just game planning, but motivating during the football game.
That's exactly right. You can see them on the sidelines. I mean, it's so funny. Some people will watch their offensive line, and some people will follow the ball, and some people, but if you sit there, and this is what I'll do. When I watch the highlights from the night before, I'll watch them 7 or 8 times and look at something different each time. And sometimes I want to see the coach's reaction.
Yeah.
And see how and they're just as excited as the kids are a lot of times on a big play because they're seeing all that work that they've put in during the week and all the game planning and all the film watching, that it's all coming out and the kids are executing it properly.
All South Appraisals is your trusted partner in appraising rural properties in our area. All South Appraisals can handle all types of properties, whether that's agricultural, commercial, residential, from vast farmlands to that charming country home. They specialize in rural properties that define the heart and soul of our communities. Their commitment to accuracy and dedication to understanding the unique nuances of rural properties is what sets them apart. They blend modern technology with old-fashioned attention to detail and provide you with an appraisal that you can trust. Whether you're a lender, an attorney, an accountant, a real estate agent or broker, or if you're the property owner, give All South Appraisals a call at 478-837-3818. Again, that's 478-837-3818. That gets us done with our 3 local schools that we focus on each week. At this time, Scott, I want to go to see if anybody has checked in on our live chat, and it looks like our friend Billy Goodman has checked in. And let's see what Billy says here. He says, "Good evening, Scott and Tim. Look forward to calling." I can't tell what that says.
Well, let me tell you, because a screw popped out of my glasses as I sat down tonight, so I'm afraid to put my glasses. I'm afraid I'm gonna need the lens to get home tonight. So,
that's right. He says, "Look forward to chatting tomorrow night on Sports 98." I appreciate you bringing that up, Billy, because if you're wanting to listen to the Schley County Marion game tomorrow night, it will be on 98.7 WISK rather than on 94.7 WDEC. So want to say thank you to that. I see where Doug Hatch has checked in as well. And God, I can't hardly read that.
Tim, Yeah, I ain't got my glasses, brother.
Let's see here. He says Illinois is in the house. First round of the playoffs here in Illinois. Wow, that's quick, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
And that begins tomorrow night and on Saturday. So, man, I'm glad we're not doing that in Georgia, Doug. But thank you a lot for checking in with us. Again, if you want to check in with us on the live chat, please feel free to do so. We'd love to hear from you. Scott, we've got a few other area games that we need to talk a little bit about. Let's start with somebody that's close to your physical home.
Mm-hmm.
Macon County at 6-2 will play host to Taylor County at 6-2.
You know, the similar records, but the Maxwell ratings that does the point spread, they smell a rat with those two records. They're about like you are, Tim. They've got Macon County as a 32-point favorite. Even though both teams late in the season have the same records, they still say Macon County is going to win by 32.
Macon County's two losses are to Manchester and Schley.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the reason for the 32-point spread.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to have to go with Macon County on that one.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Macon County. I don't know that it'll be a 32-point spread. I'm thinking more like 21 or 24. Macon County does have a good kicker, so they could get a field goal in there. So
And they've got a strong running game. It depends on how healthy they are. I know they were beat up before our game and after the game. So
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't as, you know, they had some injuries, but when the game was over when we played them, they had some key injuries.
all right, Crisp County at 5-4 will take on Thomasville. They're going to host Thomasville. Thomasville's also at 5-4. That'll be a tough one.
It will. That one's it's only a 5. Thomasville's only a 5-point favorite, but you know they're a 5-point favorite, and they're the road team. So that tells me that the computer's giving them really a much stronger nod than just 5 points. So, I think I'm going to go with Crisp County on this one. I think Crisp County, they're like an old John Deere bee. They'll hit and miss. They'll 1 week they'll be firing on all cylinders, and then it'll sound like it's going to choke out the next week or something. So.
Crisp County coming off a big win. I think I'm going to go with them too, Scott. And let me tell you my reasons why. In Thomasville right now, the team that everybody's talking about is not Thomasville High School. It's not Brookwood School. It's Thomas County Central,
Right.
who right now is 8-0 and the number 2 ranked team in their classification. So Thomasville kind of feeling bad that they're playing second fiddle to Thomas County Central. They're playing at Crisp County. I'm going to go with the Cougars as well. Speaking of Thomas County Central, Lee County at 7-1 travels to Thomas County Central. That ought to be a battle.
It should, but you look at especially one of their common opponents, Houston County.
Yep.
I watched college football on TV, but there was somebody filming the Houston County Thomas County Central game on Facebook, and I watched it Saturday sitting in my recliner while watching the college games. I'm telling you, Thomas County Central shut them down, shut that high-powered offense down that Houston County has. So, they shut out, right after the quarterback Hill the past week committed to Colorado.
Yeah.
So I think Thomas County Central's a 17-point favorite. I'm going to go with Thomas County Central on this one.
Yeah, I got to go with Thomas County Central as well. Not many times will I pick against Lee County in this area, but I think Thomas County Central's defense is a little too strong.
Mm-hmm.
County. Hope that my Lee County fans understand we're trying to do this in a way that we don't go with our gut. We look at on paper what should happen.
I go with my gut.
Do you really?
I'm just kidding.
We go with our gut before we go on the air. I assure you that with the good meal here at the Roman Oven. All right. So both of us are picking Crisp over Thomasville. Both of us are picking Thomas County Central over Lee County. And here's one that I think everybody in the state would agree with us on. Deerfield at 1-7 travels down to Hayhira to take on Brad Wells and the Valwood Valiants, who are 6-1. Valwood is a 42-point favorite.
Yeah, which really surprised me, Tim. Before when we talked about this before, that you said you were going to pick Deerfield. I'm going to go against you, and I'm going to take Valwood in this one.
Yeah, I don't think I'll pick Deerfield in that one at all. All right, so we got Macon County should win over Taylor County as our prediction. Crisp County over Thomasville. Thomas County Central over Lee County, and Valwood over Deerfield. That gets us to the Booger Bottom wrap-up, brought to you by the Booger Bottom Yacht Club. They've been voted numerous times as the best burger in Sumter County. They're located on the banks of Lake Blackshear, right off Lamar Road. Go by and see Miss Sue, Rick, Russ, Renee, or any of the staff, and let Booger Bottom wrap you up with the best burger in Sumter County. Southland Academy at 2-6. Host Tiftarea Academy at 1-6-1. Scott, who do you like?
I'm going to go with Southland on this one. I think Southland's got something to fight for. Tiftarea has struggled this season, and I think Southland really wants to get in the playoffs and get another bite at the apple this season.
I'm torn on this one because I'm a huge Eric Soliday fan.
I'm sure
He's one of the finest men, one of the finest football coaches in our area.
Mm-hmm.
But I also believe that Rod Murray is going to have his guys ready,
mm-hmm.
and it's at Southland.
Right.
So I believe that Southland wins it in a close one and sets up that matchup with Deerfield next week where it really means a lot. I'm going to go with Southland in a close one as well. Sumter County at 5-3, host Worth County at 5-3. Worth County is a 9-point favorite.
That's a whole lot of points, but I tell you what worries me about Worth County is their balanced attack. If it was just one dimensional, I feel a lot better about Sumter County going in. Sumter County going in that game, but Sumter County is got something to play for right now. I've learned as the season progressed, you don't want to bet against Will Rogers.
Right.
And I'm going to go with Sumter County on this one.
I'm very much like I was with Southland. Sumter County played toe-to-toe for 3.5 quarters last week with Fitzgerald. There was a 36-20 loss that Worth County had to Fitzgerald earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm.
I really think Sumter County at this point, Will Rogers has his guys in a position where they know what's in front of them and they want to host a playoff game. I'm going to go with Sumter County in a close one. I think we'll kick a field goal late in the ball game to beat Worth County. So both of us are going with Sumter County. Schley County at 8-0 travels over to Marion County. Marion is 4-4. Schley is a 40. I've got them at a 45-point favorite. I think you had them at a 47-point favorite.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm going with Schley County on this one. This could possibly be the first time Schley County has beat Marion County in Marion County.
Is that right?
Yes.
I did not realize that.
I don't think they've beat them in Marion County.
Okay.
Not only that, I think Marion County is celebrating their 10-year anniversary of their state champion team.
They are. I heard that this week.
From 2013. So I think they're going to have bring a lot of those guys back and coaches back and recognize them tomorrow night at the game too, which, I don't know exactly if that's extra motivation for Schley or not. I mean, if I were a coach, I would definitely try to use it to motivate my young men.
Yep.
But it's, if when you win a state championship, I would celebrate 5, 10, 15, 20 every 5-year anniversary. So yep. I can understand, Marion County definitely doing that.
And very well deserved for those folks in Marion County. Those were some good years for the Eagles, and we certainly congratulate them for that. Hope tomorrow night that they will remember the shellacking that they put on Schley that year, and maybe we can return the favor. So, Scott, I think both of us are going to pick Schley County in a big way tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, that gets us wrapped up with all of our games for this week. What are your final thoughts on Week 11?
Do we want to check and see if we have any more
comments? We can.
We'll do that, and then
let's see. We do. Tommy Eubanks has checked in. Let's see what old Tommy says here. Wonder if you've heard anything about the Fitzgerald Cook situation. Heard NIL may be involved. Any information? Yeah, Tommy, we talked about that a little earlier. As far as we know, NIL was not involved. It was a player that grew up in Cook, moved away after his 6th grade year to Valdosta, went to school and played at Lowndes. In July of the previous year, one of the coaches there took a job back at Cook. The mom and dad of the players divorced or separated, and he moved back to Cook County with the mother. And as they asked for a hardship, they were granted a hardship. But another coach from Fitzgerald turned them in because that player followed a coach. And there is a rule in the GHSA that says you can't transfer following a coach. So that's kind of what we've heard. And
well, but we're not ruling that out. We
Right.
don't have any knowledge that says that NIL was not into play on that.
That's
So
right.
I think if you've got a friend who has lost a bet to you, I would give them a chance to sit there and say, okay, I will wipe your slate clean if you go to Adele on Friday night with some sort of GHSA paraphernalia, whether it be a shirt or a T-shirt, something that makes you look like you're a GHSA official, and sit in the Cook County stands. Because I'm telling you, if you got nothing else to do, get on some of these GHSA sites, bless their hearts, and see some of the comments the Cook County folks have put, like poor old GHSA. They'll sit there and they'll broadcast about something about the playoffs over in the softball state playoffs over in Columbus, and them Cook County fans will have 70 messages below it.
Oh, yeah.
They're lighting them up. So I think you'd be safer in a Fitzgerald shirt in the Cook County stands than you would be a GHSA shirt.
I think you're right. I told my buddy down there, Scott, I said, y'all may go to attend the football game tomorrow and an MMA match breakout.
And that's what, it's something. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to say this. We're going to quit beating this dead horse. I'm glad the GHSA is starting to do something about it.
Yeah. I think that NIL, I think, is going to make them have to do more of this.
You've got to, because from an outsider looking in, GHSA awarded the hardship case, and then new evidence came about, and whether they meant to or not, if it looked like that Cook County had misled GHSA, they are definitely going to drop a hammer in a situation like that.
Absolutely.
And I think they can't not do that. I know it's a double negative, but they cannot ignore that situation if it looks like you may, intentional or otherwise, misled the GHSA in your initial file. But that's my final thoughts. Really, I tell you, I'm so happy. I mean, good gosh, who would have thought that at this point we're talking about Sumter County hosting a playoff game?
I'm with you.
I mean, who would? I mean, that right there. You talk about Vegas odds on giving you that. Well, I would like to see what that would have been early in the season.
Hey, and the good thing is the three teams we focus on are still in the playoff hunt. So if you're a Raider fan, go out and support them tomorrow night. They play Tiftarea at Harvey Simpson Stadium. Kickoffs at 7:30. Sumter County also at home tomorrow night as they host Worth County. Typically, the Sumter County crowd gets there a little later. You need to get there early tomorrow, folks, and root the Panthers on. And then, of course, Schley County makes the 17 or 18-mile trip up to Marion County to take on the Marion County Eagles. Kickoffs at 7:30. If you can't get to that game, make sure and listen to it. William Rooks and I will be on 98.7 WISK tomorrow night. We want to thank you for making the Integrity Sports Podcast a part of your weekly routine. We certainly want to thank all of our sponsors, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal, Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance, All South Appraisals, One Digital Solutions, and Booger Bottom. It's, of course, always nice to be here at the Roman Oven Pizzeria, and we are gaining ground on YouTube, trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Please log on to our YouTube page and hit the subscribe button. We're also available on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and several other social media and podcast platforms. Scott, I checked our numbers right before we went on today, and we were at 1,592.
Oh,
So
1,600.
almost 1,600 views this past week. If you were one of those, thank you, and encourage more folks to watch us. It's good to know we've got so many folks watching. For Scott Westbrook, I'm your host, Tim Estes. Thank you for watching this week. So long, everybody.